Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, homelessness went up in Seattle and King County, which comes as a surprise to nobody. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I am so tired of political cowardice. I am so tired of people who act one way to get elected and then say, we're going to behave a different way if you elect us. I have had multiple examples of this in the last week alone, and it is ticking me off. Put that on the side for a second. Let me tell you what led me to this point. Last night, we were covering this live during the show until we went off air. What happens is starting at 8 o'clock in the morning yesterday, Antifa and anti-ICE activists started surrounding the federal building in downtown Seattle. They start barricading the entrances and the exits with Lime bikes and Lime scooters. Now, the police show up and then they retreat. The feds show up and then they go back inside the building. The police close the street and then unclose the street just a few minutes later. What happens? The mob is emboldened by all this. So they pile on more debris. They start zip tying these things together because anytime they built these barricades at first, the Fed said, hey, you know what? Let's just pull these things inside and clear them out. But then they brought more of them and more of them and more of them as more of these lunatics showed up. This went on for hours. Literally for hours until nightfall. Now, our friends, Katie Daviscourt from the Post Millennial and Brandy Cruz from the Undivided Podcast were down there, and they were covering all this. And as they were covering it, you saw these guys started getting more and more violent the darker it got at night. In fact, they started attacking Katie and Brandy by pouring liquids on them that God knows what was in that, even though they had security with them, because the rioters are not worried about law enforcement doing anything. As these guys started trying to bash in the windows of the federal building, SPD comes by, launches a few things of tear gas and some pepper balls, and then drives off. And you see the activists react to that, and most of them dispersed, but some came back, some stuck around, and some decide to take down the American flags at the federal building and light them on fire. This was clearly the D-list Antifa types. But eventually what's going to happen is the A-list is going to show up because now the mob has been emboldened by this. How do I know? I spoke to Katie this morning. Katie tells me these lunatic activists are back at the federal building already. And here's something else. Tonight, they already have planned, and they've been planning this for a few days now, the emergency protest from LA to Seattle, ICE out, at 7 p.m. at Cal Anderson Park. Now, this was interesting to me. I get emails from the Seattle Department of Transportation. They're for street use permits. I have a street use permit on a building I do property management for, so I get their street use updates. And they sent out this street use update that for today, June 11th, and Saturday, June 14th, both at Cal Anderson Park, because they got another rally coming up at Cal Anderson Park called the No Kings March and Rally, which is supposed to be at like 1,200 locations across the U.S. Let me ask you a question. Why didn't I get a letter like this for when the Christians had their rock concert? Here's what it says. What should I do? If you're located in Capitol Hill or downtown, we recommend taking these steps to secure your job sites, sidewalk cafes, and other outdoor operations after business hours today and on Saturday to help protect against potential risks while respecting the peaceful nature of the event. Really, how peaceful is this event going to be where you have to secure your outdoor items, Remove or secure chairs, tables, umbrellas, signs, construction materials, tools, and anything else at risk of being moved or damaged. Ensure your permit areas are clear and items are well secured before leaving for the day. Be aware that unexpected traffic or street closures may occur throughout the day because the march route is unconfirmed. Do you know what this is an email saying? The city is surrendering Cal Anderson Park to the lunatic activists, and if there's a riot, make sure your stuff is locked up because we're not responsible for it. That's what this email is. And that's what it seemed like last night was in front of the federal building, where Seattle officials said, not my problem. We're not going to deal with this. Don't want to deal with this at all. Was there a statement from the mayor? Was there a statement from Bob Ferguson? Was there a statement from the attorney general? No. You know what there was, though? And this sent me over the edge. Something from Ann Davison's campaign page. She's running for re-election for Seattle City Attorney. While the Antifa lunatics were massing at the federal building, she posted this. I created a federal response unit to the city attorney's office to monitor Trump's actions. We are already suing the Trump administration for its threats to withhold federal funding from welcoming cities like Seattle. Defending Seattle's values as city attorney is my top priority. Did everybody see a poll or something? Her, Bruce Harrell, everybody else, that you say Seattle's values and the progressives are going to vote for you? What values are you talking about? They've rounded up murderers, rapists, people who committed domestic violence against their spouses, child rapists, drug traffickers, human traffickers around here. So your values are defending that. Just making sure. Ann Davidson ran as the law and order candidate against an Antifa activist last time. Now your values align with Antifa? Are you flipping kidding me? And you post this the same day Antifa is rioting at the federal building against ICE? And you close comments on the post? I mean, I consider Ann somebody I get along with fine, but writing something like this makes me not want to vote for her. Because what's the difference? Oh, trust me, Ari, when I get into office, then I'm going to do what you want me to do. Why would I believe that with something like this? That means you'll say whatever it takes to get elected? No. I want somebody who stands on principle. Maybe that's too much to ask in a city like Seattle. But sorry, this don't do it for me. Plus, you're opposing the ICE raids against criminals? You claim to be the law and order candidate, and you're opposing arresting criminals who are in this country illegally. That was just the tip of the iceberg. The other one is Sean Barnes from the Seattle Police Department. So Sean Barnes, yesterday, what did he say yesterday? You remember we had this clip courtesy of our friend Jeff Pogula over at Northwest News Radio. He sent us the audio of him testifying before the Seattle City Council in his official confirmation hearing, where he said he expects to be jailed by Donald Trump for not enforcing immigration laws.
I want to be clear, to protect anyone in Seattle from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights. And what that means is, at some point, I will probably go to jail.
Now, he's so brave, taking on the Trump administration. Dude, I want somebody who's going to stand up to Antifa. That's what I want out of a police chief. Let me ask you a question. If Antifa occupied Cal Anderson Park on Saturday, or occupies Cal Anderson Park tonight, you think Bruce Harrell would have the stones to break it up? You think Ann Davidson would prosecute the offenders? You think the Seattle Police Department would be ordered in I don't know. They were to protect the Christian group, but then the mayor threw them under the bus. They were basically MIA yesterday. So somebody at the top was saying, yeah, guys, we don't want you out there. Yeah, they came by later, but that was after hours after these guys had amassed and trapped people inside a building. What do you think? If there's an autonomous zone formed tonight at Cal Anderson Park, would our elected officials have the stones to break it up? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because as if those comments weren't bad enough from the police chief yesterday, they released this video this morning.
As I watch the actions taken by federal law enforcement in California and along the West Coast, I am reminded of why I became a police officer. It is my job to support the rights of our community. Let me be clear. The Seattle Police Department does not engage in immigration enforcement activities. We do not inquire into or collect information about an individual's immigration or citizenship status unless it is directly connected to a state or local criminal investigation. This is, of course, the sole responsibility of the federal government. My responsibility is the safety and security of the people of Seattle. We adhere to Washington state law, which limits our involvement with federal immigration authorities for enforcement purposes. Here in Seattle, no one should be afraid of contacting local law enforcement to report a crime, ask for help, or cooperate with an investigation. Our officers are here to serve everyone regardless of their immigration status. The Seattle Police Department supports everyone's right to peacefully protest. Our city is and should remain a model for the nation of what happens when people have the space and freedom to express themselves respectfully. We encourage community representatives to reach out and work with our poet team to ensure every voice can be heard. The Seattle Police Department's commitment to our community will not change.
So we're going to find out tonight if that's true or not. Do you think if tonight Antifa takes over Cal Anderson Park, or more likely, by the way, I'd say Saturday, do you think the Seattle Police Department will be allowed to do their jobs, or do you think they'll be held back from doing their jobs? It was 5 years ago where the mayor and the police chief, not this one, but a couple before this one, decided to abandon a police precinct after 2 nights of consecutive rioting and allowed the creation of the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, which was 6 square blocks of the city, being taken over by domestic terrorists. I'm sorry, but I hear something like that and I say, why'd you make the video? We know what the law is. We know what your job has to do. That sounds like you're giving them a license to say, well, you know what? I don't agree with what's going on down in L.A. with Donald Trump. So if you guys do it here, you're going to be fine. We're not going to enforce the law. You guys go ahead and riot. We'll consider that free speech. Is it any wonder that the feds are sending more federal officers to Seattle, to Chicago, to Philadelphia, to New York, to Northern Virginia? Did you see what happened last night? So in California and Los Angeles, close to 200 people were arrested in another night of rioting. In Chicago, you had people arrested after the riots started there. You had riots in New York. These are breaking out across the country because these are organized. We have documented that these are being paid for by activist groups that are getting our taxpayer dollars. And I'm going to say something to crystallize this for a second. A lot of people say, are we going to have Summer of Love Part 2? Yeah, but this is what it would have been like without COVID. When do the real activists kind of show up? Around 5, 6 o'clock at night, which means they're probably going to work or doing whatever it is they do during the day, and then showing up to riot. That seems to be the pattern. People are already massing in California again. People are already massing at the federal building. But it seems like at 5, 6 o'clock, the crowds get much bigger. In 2020, we were dealing with COVID. A lot of these people didn't have jobs to go to or were working from home. So they could riot all day, every day. They could keep an autonomous zone going for a month. And our elected officials still don't have the courage to actually stop them. How bad is the polling on this? That now Karen Bass last night declared a curfew and had 200 people arrested herself. That now Gavin Newsom is saying, oh, we believe in law and order. The polling is so terrible on this that, in fact, Republicans and Donald Trump have gained more support for deporting illegal immigrant criminals. So Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and crew are the ones who are saying, even though we believe these are riots now, so wait, let me make sure I got this right. First, there were no riots. Second, there were riots, but they were mostly peaceful. Third, well, they're a little bit violent, but it's Donald Trump's fault. Now they're very violent, but they're only in certain areas, and it's still Donald Trump's fault. Now they're very violent, and we want to deal with them, and it's still Donald Trump's fault. Is that about how this went down? That's about how I see it happening. But our local officials may be looking at different polling data. While nationally, everybody thinks this is insane that you let Antifa or anti-ICE activists have the run of the streets and allowed to riot. Here in Seattle, I wonder what polling Ann Davidson is looking at. I wonder what polling Bruce Harrell is looking at. Because Seattle, King County, Washington are some of the few areas in the country that went more blue in the last election, whereas the rest of the country is returning to common sense. But I don't want a politician who says, oh, I'm going to go whichever way the wind blows. Do you know who Salim Nice is? Salim Nice is the mayor of Mercer Island. He's a Muslim, by the way. And why is that relevant? Because this is a guy who since October 7th has come out and stood with the Jewish community, and I'm sure there are some people in his religion that are not thrilled about that. But he knows the difference between right and wrong. And whether it costs him electorally, he comes out to events of the Jewish community to march for releasing the hostages for Gaza. That's what I want in a leader. A guy like Salim Nice, who he says, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. Ann Davidson going along with this anti-ICE business? No. Bruce Harrell, who knows what he's even up to, an empty suit? No. I'd rather say, give me the socialist, because then at least I know where they stand and I know what I have to deal with. I don't want one person who says one thing to me and then does another. If you're not telling me the truth now, why would I assume that you're going to tell me the truth later? If you're saying, oh, I'm just saying all this to get elected. And by the way, I am hearing this from more and more officials in our area. There are a lot of off-the-record conversations I have with these officials, and I'm getting more and more nauseated. In fact, when I saw this thing from Ann Davidson, Mike knows this. Every time there's an election, what do? I spend a huge amount of time bringing candidates on the show and endorsing candidates, and I make graphics, and I spend all this time I don't have to because our phone lines and our emails and everything blows up with, Ari, I don't know who to vote for. You know what the problem is? Neither do I right now. Because I refuse to do this nonsense of holding my nose and voting for somebody. I'd rather I at least know where you stand on something. We have Adam Smith coming on the show at 4:30 today because I don't like some votes that he had. But at least he comes on the show to discuss it, to argue it with me. At least he shows up in the community. No, don't worry, my friends. I have not gone Democrat. But my question is, Ann Davidson was a Democrat who became a Republican who now seems to be saying all the things the leftists want her to say. I don't know who the real person is. I don't know, and it's breaking my heart. Because I know Ann, and I've known Ann for a long time. But there seems to be a huge lack of political courage to do the right thing. And if an autonomous zone was formed in Cal Anderson Park tonight or on Saturday night, where the Department of Transportation has to send out warning notices because it might be so violent, you think anybody around here would have the political courage to actually do anything about it? I notice that all these pop culture podcasts and all these pop culture shows and reality shows and late night TV, they're all calling this the Summer of Love Part 2. That's because of the failure of Seattle went so viral last time. We are a national laughing stock. We are a national cautionary tale. And I'm worried it's about to happen again. When we come back, looks like a lot of you want to weigh in on this. Your calls, your texts, plus the number of homeless people in Seattle is going up again. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win two tickets to see Pantera at the White River Amphitheater. I don't know why I feel like I have to say Pantera every time I do that, but I do. That music fills me with all the rage. I just want to go in a mosh pit with a bunch of people and just rough it up. Wait, I'm starting to sound like a member of Antifa. That's not good. Yes, we do love Pantera, though. Yes.
Well, you might even argue that the Antifas are indeed the Cowboys from hell.
Something like that. Yeah, another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your radio. Left on your dial. Always right on the issues. Can't even talk normally. I'm so fired with rage. And it seems like a lot of you on our text line are as well. This one from John in Auburn. Ari, get ready for Chop Chaz 2.0. They want it to happen as long as Donald Trump is president of the United States. Yep, couldn't agree more. Conway says, good afternoon. Barn's door is open. Exit. Stage left, says Conway. Very good. Very good. From Kelly. In Seattle, Ari, I've concluded that our city and state are run by people who have no brains, no heart, no spine, no soul, and no balls. So no, the laws won't be enforced. This seems to be a recurring theme right here. This one here from the 206. No, they are gutless and feckless. Yeah, got this one from the 206. Only a matter of time until our police chief is accused of some kind of misconduct, is fired, and then sues the city of Seattle. And before that will be the great resignation of our police officers. You know, a lot of these police officers are just biding their time until their retirements they're eligible for full retirement, and then they are out of here. Yeah. Here's another one here. This one from Sandy and Sammamish. No, Bruce Harrell does not have the stones to clear rioters out of Cal Anderson Park. Ari Barnes must be a Seattle, Washington Democrat. I can't read that word on the air. We're moving on from there, Bob. But yes, I hear where you're coming from. So he says, on the city attorney front, I know you, John, and others were singing Davison's praises upon election, but at the time I said she was a liberal Democrat who donned a deceptive set of clothes, just another legal leftist activist. Again, I have no faith in anyone elected by Seattle nitwits. I will say this, is Ann seems like she's done an okay job. I don't think she's done a great job. I think she's done an okay job. But does this mean she's also going to do what the left wants if she gets into office? Like last time she did some of the stuff we wanted when we voted her into office? Got some disagreement here from the 206. This one says, I voted for Ann Davidson. I'll do it again. I look at the judges right now. Read their words before I vote. Yep, very good point, 206. Most people aren't even paying attention to that. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Mike in Kirkland. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, well, anyhow, I have one comment and one question. My comment is, now our church showed up on Cal Anderson on Memorial Day weekend, and with permit in hand, mind you, and got urine-filled water balloons thrown at them. So my question is, are these people showing up to Cal Anderson this time? Are they going to have a permit?
See, that's the question I have. I don't know if they have a permit or not. And actually, that's a great point, Mike, because I know that the Christians did everything right. So I have a question if these lunatics have filed for a permit or they're just showing up. So you know what? At the next commercial break, I'm actually going to email the city and ask. That's a great, great question, Mike. I'm going to find out for you. So I'll do that, and I'll get back to everybody as soon as I hear an answer. All right, man?
All right, and I wonder if anyone's going to throw urine balloons at them.
Yeah, let's not do that. let's not be that. Let's not do that. Mike, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from James in Covington. James, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Ari? So I wanted to get your opinion on a thought I had. So with all the protests, that's going on, what do you think because to me it seems like they know that how Trump is going to react, based off law and, federal laws and this and that. What do you think if instead of, because it seems when, police, not even just Trump, but even like local police and stuff, what if they just didn't show up or give them any attention and let them start destroying stuff on their own? Because it seems that they get out there and kind of agitate until the police show up, and then it causes them to, act out and start breaking things. So what if we just kind of ignored them because they're basically like little kids
Sure.
throwing a temper tantrum.
So here's
what if we just
let me put it this way, James.
ignored them?
I know where you're going to. You say, let's just ignore them and let them do what they do. Maybe they're doing this for the attention. So there's two schools of thought on this. There's two schools of thought.
Not exactly.
Right, but
Not exactly.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, though, James. I got limited time. I got to go to a commercial soon. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Let's say this, right? Let's say we just let them show up and destroy whatever we want. We tried that in the autonomous zone. I don't think you're advocating for that. I don't think you're advocating for that.
I'm saying, like, once they, like, let them start doing it without the police there, then the police come in. So that way.
Well, that's what happened in L.A. That's exactly what happened in L.A. And now we're behind the eight ball. Yeah, so that's exactly what happened in L.A.
I missed the first 3 days.
Right, that's fine. So that's literally what happened. But then what happening here now is that if you say, okay, the cops are going to be there just to keep the peace and let them do what they want. Now, here's an example like that. So you had these Hamasniks that marched through downtown Seattle, and nobody showed up to cover it. No media, no nothing, and they just walked and they just left. Now, here's the thing. I don't think they're going to remain peaceful because they didn't remain peaceful in Cal Anderson Park.
No.
If you went during the daytime, it was a street fair party atmosphere, one you might get hepatitis from, but then everybody showed up to peacock at night. So the thing is here, if we leave them alone, we know what happens. And I know there's some people out there saying, let Los Angeles burn to the ground, let Seattle burn to the ground. I don't think it's the wisest course of action, but I hear the argument. James, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Susan has a question over on the text line. She says, Ari, who can we contact at the federal level to ask for intervention? Well, Susan, like I mentioned in the last segment, maybe it got buried with my rant, but the federal government is sending more agents to Seattle, to Chicago, to these other cities where the riots are breaking out. I think our friend Katie Daviscourt was one of the people who broke that they were coming to Seattle last night. I think she got it from a source over at the federal level, but then MSNBC reported on it like it was a bad thing. So it sounds like the cavalry is already on the way. The question is, are they going to be allowed to do anything? Because don't forget, they're limited in what they can do, where they may just be here to protect federal buildings. We'll see if they're actually here to stop riots. Or will the government here say, no, we got it, because now the Trump came like California is doing right now. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, is there about to be a rom-com ending to Elon Musk and Donald Trump? Are they about to be united in the most glorious fashion before the credits roll? We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There was a social media post from Elon Musk last night that set the platform a Twitter. He wrote, "I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far." Now, not the B, a.k.a. the Babylon Bee posts. At least you didn't say anything about his golf game. It would have gotten real ugly. That's very, very good. But does this mean... Exactly. Does this mean that Elon Musk wants to win back the heart of Donald Trump? Yeah, the next thing you know, he's going to be standing outside his window in front of a red Tesla, holding a boombox, blasting it to the sky, asking for him outside the Oval Office. "I want you back, Donald." Or maybe just standing there solemnly while Donald sleeps in the Lincoln bedroom, thinking about whether or not he should take Elon back. Oh, this could be the merging of the titans we've been waiting for. But all kidding aside, Donald Trump and Elon Musk making up and making things right. Yeah, Mike's grabbing the headphones. Here he comes.
Flag that.
I got too into the Peter Gabriel music right there. What?
Ari's all like, "I ship that."
So what this means is actually, you know what? People can have fights. People can get back together. People can move on from stupid battles. Or was this something they just wanted to distract from something else that was going on, which a lot of us have thought about the whole time? Let me know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because there is some good news from the economy. This comes to us from CNBC, and they are most definitely not my little black book of the right-wing media.
There's no way to look at these numbers and say they're not welcome news. I mean, a downside surprise to core goods is where people were looking for potentially tariff effects, and maybe except for isolated areas that Steve mentioned, you're not quite getting that. So I think it's all net benefit.
So basically what he's talking about is inflation numbers are going down. Inflation is cooling, which is good. However, if the economy is so good, why ain't the economy good? Because the economy is a massive freight train and takes time to get moving. Now, gas prices coming down in 35 states, not ours, but in the rest of the country, means the price of goods is coming down, which is good. The price of groceries is coming down. However, like we were concerned about, a lot of companies are using all the tariff fund as an excuse to raise their prices, and they haven't brought them down yet. Do you think there's going to be backlash against these companies or against Trump? There are people who don't pay attention to politics as closely as we do, as closely as you do when you're listening to the show, who may just know the price of their transformers or whatever went up because of the tariffs. But is it really because of the tariffs, or is it because the company said, hey, now's a good opportunity to raise our prices and we're not bringing them back down? Until people really see a monumental change in their bank accounts and feel like they're earning the money, the problem is the Republicans are underwater come the election, because that's one of Donald Trump's big campaign promises. And all these announcements of investments in America are great. They're wonderful. They're huge. They're fantastic. Talking about having a trade deal with China. It's huge. It's great. It's fantastic. It's the best. It's all good. But how long is it going to take for the market to react? How long is it going to take for the economy to react? Those are the things we need to watch so people feel it in their wallets. Let me know if you're feeling in your wallet here in Washington. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up, man?
Nothing much, sir. As far as these Antifa lunatics, they'll probably be downtown causing a lot of problems tonight. I'm glad you mentioned it because, one, I'll be able to listen to the scanner tonight to find out what exactly is going on. Because if they think they can do this kind of crap every day, then gag me with a spoon.
Well, I think that's exactly what they think. I think that's exactly what they think they're going to do, Leonard. I think they're planning for Summer of Love Part 2 or Volume 2 or Part Due. You choose which one you like. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. By the way, those of you over on the text line who are giving me song suggestions for Elon and Donald, you're funny, but I think it's give me some bad mental imagery here. You people are funny, though. Maybe we'll read some of those when we come back. Also, when we come back, Pramila Jayapal, she's not a doctor, she's not a biologist, but she's got some really interesting opinions on all this anatomy stuff and what kids should be doing to themselves. I'll tell you all about it. Play for you that insane audio when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So, Representative Pramila Jayapal, she's a treat, let me tell you. An absolute treat. And now she's weighing in on gender-affirming care, basically trans surgeries, the transing of the kids. This is what she said in Congress yesterday.
My amendment would allow medical professionals to continue delivering health care to young trans people when it is considered a best practice. It recognizes that this care is safe, widely accepted, appropriate, medically necessary, and most importantly, it allows transgender people to live safely and authentically as themselves.
Would you mind providing any of the science you used to come to those conclusions? Any of it? Would you mind telling me how cutting off perfectly healthy parts of your body is medically safe? Anybody want to tell me how that is? Can anybody explain that to me? How that's healthy for you? You know, we stopped doing lobotomies for a reason, right? So why do you think this is safe and medically okay? You can't make that argument, but you're trying to make it anyway. Where's the data? Show me the data. Oh, you're trying to make the suicide claim that suicides are going down? That's not true either. Suicides are going up. In fact, they're worse after you have the surgeries. This is a mental health problem. And you are harming the kids by doing this kind of stuff. Any doctor who's not political is going to tell you that cutting off perfectly healthy organs or limbs or anything else is dangerous. Plus, we don't know what all this hormone therapy is going to do years down the road, decades down the road. What happens when you take any drug for that long? It affects your body. You think this is the smart way to go? Oh, she wasn't done yet.
What is barbaric is this legislation. What is barbaric is targeting trans kids in this country who are not doing you any harm. Show me a trans kid who's doing you harm. And then tell me how many of you are parents that would do anything that you could to protect your kids and to make sure that they didn't commit suicide, that they were actually able to engage in the world in a healthy way. Tell me what you wouldn't do for your children. Because when you introduce legislation like this, it is not only stupid legislation, it is cruel, it is mean, and it interferes with your own conservative principles. You really want to take away the ability to allow parents to make decisions about their own kids' medical situation with their doctor? That's what Republicans want to do?
Oh, give me a break. I can't anymore. I can't. You want to mutilate perfectly healthy kids. That's what you want, rather than get them the mental health that they need. This is a mental health issue. We had the detransitioner on the show last week, Ari, who was talking about this, how they were brainwashed into thinking that this was medically good and medically acceptable, and this was the way to go, and they regret it. And it's not just one person. It's armies of people like this who are brainwashed by the left for a political agenda. Thank God they didn't do this when we were younger. You know, my niece says to me the other day, she says, yeah, exactly. My niece says to me the other day, she goes, I'm a mermaid. I go, oh, isn't that sweet? We should get you the mermaid surgery. Stitch your legs together, get you a little fin, get you some coconuts or seashells, whatever it is, and we'll send you out there. She's 6. She's 6. Yes, but she wants to be a mermaid. So maybe we should make her a mermaid. Pramila Jayapal is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Absolutely crazy. Also, who's looking out for her kid? She's got a kid who wants to do this to themselves, too. She talks about it all the time. At least that's what she claims. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Chris in Bonnie Lake. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. So, hey, the best argument I saw, and it might have been from, the dude that sits at the table and has the sign up, and says whatever, change my mind.
Yeah.
Crowder. Maybe it was Crowder. He said it was perfect. He goes, if your sexual parts don't determine your gender, then how does removing one do it?
That's a good point. Here's something else, though, by the way. Europe has stopped doing these surgeries. Europe. And they're supposed to be more progressive than us because they think they are dangerous. Are they crazy?
Hey, Ari, can you do something? I want you, I don't know if you're probably aware of this, and I can send you the link. I think it was from James Woods. And he goes through Karen Bass's whole background of, going to Cuba every year, being trained to be a terrorist.
Oh,
with?
sure. We can look
And
up her fund. I've seen it out there. I haven't done the due diligence on it because
Yes.
the thing is, I don't want to dignify a moron with her crazy. I'd rather focus on the people who are emboldening her crazy, who are providing the masks and the gas masks and everything else for these riots. But yeah, Chris, I'll do a deep dive
But my
on that
point
tonight.
is, how does a person with that training and that history get to be the mayor of one of the biggest cities in America?
When all these unions are co-opted by people who are socialist, communist, and Marxist and push through people like that. Chris, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, homelessness went up. And we might be about to have a lot less public defenders, which means judges are going to start dismissing cases. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour at 4:30, I question Congressman Adam Smith about the stance Democrats are taking on the riots. But before we get to any of that, our governor, Bob Ferguson, has decided to weigh in on what's going on in California.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
He wrote this just a few minutes ago. President Trump's deployment of the National Guard in California over the governor's objections is deeply disturbing. It's resulting in more violence and escalating the situation, which is exactly what he wants. My job as governor is to make sure we're prepared as we can possibly be in Washington. And then he writes he shares an article from the Washington State Standard about Ferguson prepares for possibility of Trump deploying troops in Washington.
Jared Ferguson, it's a funny name.
Now, what do you suggest we do instead? Bob, withdraw the police? Abandon a police precinct? Don't send in the National Guard as rioters take over the city? Oh, wait, we already did that. You were silent when Democrats in Washington did that in 2020. In fact, you helped. How did that work out, Bob? How did that work out? Rapes, robberies, and murders went up 250% inside the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. For a month, you had radical BLM and Antifa activists take over 6 square blocks of the largest city in the state. And you were silent. That led, of course, to the defunding, and you were silent. That led to stopping police pursuits, and you were silent, even as auto theft rates went up to become the highest in the nation, even as crime soared. Even as we hit record homicide rates, and you were the top cop in Washington, and you didn't say a word. This is so predictable. You know why else he's speaking out? Can't do anything about it legally, so he's posting. Because a judge already affirmed that what Donald Trump did in California is perfectly legal. Perfectly legal. So now Turd Ferguson and crew are trying to figure out how to fight this. Well, we can't fight it. Let's post something dumb on social media. He is going to get wrecked for this post. Hang on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save this thing right here on my show spreadsheet. We're going to save this right here, and I'm going to tell you why we're going to save this. After what happened last night in Seattle at the Federal Building, after what we assume is going to happen tonight at Cal Anderson Park, after what we assume is going to happen on Saturday at Cal Anderson Park as part of this No Kings movement, this thing being run by communists, actual communists across the U.S. We see right now there's thousands of people in Los Angeles gearing up to riot again because now everybody's getting off work in an hour. They're getting ready to go again. I am going to flag this for later. Do you think Bob Ferguson would send in the National Guard if all of a sudden his supporters took over Cal Anderson Park? Of course not. Of course not. Jay Inslee didn't do it. Oh, wait. Jay Inslee sent in the National Guard on the third day of the riots in downtown Seattle after the death of George Floyd and sent them in unarmed. I saw a post today where I think the feds were talking about sending in the National Guard unarmed into Los Angeles. And I said, don't go full Inslee. You don't want to go full Inslee. That never ends well for anybody. And they're going full Inslee. Are you kidding me with this? Bob Ferguson is so disingenuous. You guys did this nonsense already. Or are you stupid? I know Bob Ferguson. We say a lot of things about Turd Ferguson. He's not stupid. He's very, very bright. What he's doing here is virtue signaling to the left. You know what? I'm going to reach out to his office for comment and say, all right, how come you didn't send in the National Guard last night? How come you didn't do that? Are you going to send them in this weekend if something happens at Cal Anderson Park? I know what the answer to that's going to be. That's going to be a big how about no. We know that's what's going to happen. He's not going to do anything about it at all. Some people were trying to say, look, Bob Ferguson, he's campaigning like a moderate. Maybe he's more moderate than we think he is. And I said, if you believe that, I have 2 bridges running over Lake Washington I'm happy to cut you a 2-for-1 price on. And if you act now, I will throw in some non-functional ferries sitting at the dock. I will do that right now. No problem. We can make a deal today. I knew he was a far-left activist. Most of you knew he was a far-left activist. Some people thought, oh, maybe he'll try to be a moderate. Nope. No way. No way at all. Meanwhile, here's some things that are happening in our state. This comes to us from our friends over at Change Washington. The number of homeless individuals in King County has risen again. Oh, excellent. Wow, we're really doing wonders with all the billions of dollars we are pouring into Homeless Inc. The suffering grows in encampments, vacant buildings, and urban green spaces, despite billions of taxpayer dollars being spent on building large housing bureaucracies at multiple levels of government. While those in charge of our region failed homeless strategy have become very wealthy, more people are without shelter, and a growing number have lost hope that they will ever recover from their untreated mental health and addiction issues. I saw a post today from the Seattle Police Department. They were negotiating with one of our unsheltered neighbors who had a machete in his hands, who had been lighting fires inside the green spaces near, what was it, Capitol Hill or Queen Anne? I forget which neighborhood. Yeah, this is what we're dealing with on the street. You give a person like that an apartment, they don't know what to do with it. They don't stop with the machete. They don't stop lighting fires with absolutely no fanfare. Not even a short press release on its website. King County Regional Homeless Authority updated the latest point-in-time count of homeless individuals in mid-April. The latest count reveals that 16,868 people are suffering from being homeless in the county. That's a 3% increase from last year's count of 16,385 and a 26% increase since 2023. Even worse, this represents a very disturbing 68% increase since King County Executive Dow Constantine declared homelessness an emergency in 2015 when only 10,047 people were counted as being without shelter. Now, we've had our friend Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle on the show every time numbers like this come out. And every time she tells us that the point-in-time count is a vast undercounting. Basically, what happens is they just assume, they have formulas when they go out on the streets and they see a tent. And they go, okay, we assume that's a person. Or is it a vast overcounting? Because a lot of these tents out there are where people commit their crimes during the day or at night. It's where the chop shops are. It's where the prostitution goes on. It's where the drug dealing goes on. Either way, we know this thing is not accurate. The number could be far higher or far lower. And either way, we're spending all this money and they don't actually want to know the answer to that question. Because if they actually want to know the answer to that question, they would audit Homeless Inc. right now, but they'll never do it. Never, ever do it. Change Washington says we will quickly note that King County Regional Homeless Authority appears to have been successful in keeping this bad news out of the media. We found it on a political insider's blog. This lack of media coverage raises concerns about why the Seattle Times once again failed to report on data which proves that our very expensive Housing First homeless strategy is not working, despite assigning 3 reporters to its Project Homeless beat. They did not believe it was newsworthy. That for the 10th straight year, since homelessness was declared an emergency in 2015, the homeless numbers got worse. Instead, the region's largest newspaper felt it was more important to help Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell push his narrative that the city is removing encampments 3 times faster than they did in 2022, when almost no encampments were being cleaned up. This refusal to scrutinize progressive leaders for their handling of the homeless situation allows politicians to evade responsibility and postpones the adoption of more effective treatment-based strategies. I've noticed, by the way, something weird is happening this year. Normally, when it's cruise season, normally when it's summer season, they clean out the homeless. Normally, when you have the Microsoft Build conference or anything huge in town, they clean out the homeless. The downtown corridor is getting worse. What are they waiting for exactly? Microsoft already announced they are bailing on Seattle because they couldn't even get rid of a tent that was in the middle of the walking archway to the convention center. What are they waiting for? What is Bruce Harrell waiting for? What is he actually? Oh, I just figured it out. Hang on, a giant light bulb went on over my head, and I feel so dumb that I didn't think about it before. You know why he's not sweeping the homeless? He wants to prove to the radical activists he's not doing the sweeps. Oh, how did I not think of that, Mike? I feel so stupid. This diet I'm on is rotting my brain. I'm not getting enough sugar during the day, and the blood isn't flowing. Oh, my God, Hoffman, what's wrong with you? I should have known about that from the beginning. Holy cow. Yeah, that's why he's not doing it. Because anytime they clear a homeless encampment, what happens on social media? The left goes crazy, and they'll go, vote for Katie Wilson. That's what's going to... Oh, man, I feel so dumb. How did I not see that coming? There's two things we do on this show. We stick up for kids, and we demonize the homeless. How did we not see that one? Mike's shaking his head. Yep, that's what we do here. And we give away fantabulous prizes, like at 5:45 when we're giving away tickets to Pantera. So, how did we not see that coming? By the way, crime's going to go up, too. According to the Washington State Standard, we warned about this months ago. Months ago, we warned this was coming. The state Supreme Court on Monday responded to a crisis in Washington public defense system by slashing caseloads for those providing counsel to poor defendants facing criminal prosecutions. Justices unanimously agreed to set new statewide standards, which calls for public defenders to handle a maximum of 47 felony cases or 120 misdemeanor cases in a year, depending on one's primary area of practice. The current thresholds are 150 felonies and 400 misdemeanors. Now, let's take a pause here. I acknowledge that they are overworked. I acknowledge that. So the solution is find more public defenders. Find more lawyers. Maybe the state does some program where if you go to law school, then you work with us. We'll pay for law school if you work for us for a certain number of years. Something like that. But the problem here is once you cut those hours, who's picking up the cases? And the answer is nobody. And if nobody's picking up those cases, you know what that means? Judges have already said they're going to start dismissing cases where they can't get a speedy trial. So what that means, more of these prolific offenders are going to be back on the streets. We warned about this. We got a tip on this. Maybe it was a year ago, Mike, but somebody told us about this a long time ago. This is not news to us. And we said, yep, the Supreme Court's going to side with the public defenders and watch. You're just going to see cases getting dismissed. This is what is going to happen. Guaranteed. Switching gears for a minute here, there's a little bit of a scandal in Seattle public schools, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I want your input on this. Seattle's Roosevelt High School is expected to face penalties from the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. That's the WIAA. No, not for trans stuff, but for breaking recruiting rules. So apparently their coach is a former Seahawk, and they're being accused of inappropriately recruiting players to Roosevelt in violation of WIAA eligibility rules. Now, the thing is, I've looked at this from multiple outlets. I think every outlet in town has this story right now. But you know what none of them say? How did you improperly recruit players? Are you paying them? Are you bribing them? Because that's a big deal. That is. Or is this something like Gordon Bombay, who he was the coach of the Mighty Ducks, but then he was helping out somebody who just needed a few bucks, and then they banned him because it was violating of recruitment rules? Yes, for those of you who didn't see the TV show, that's how the thing starts. Is it that? Or is it just kids find out that there's a Seahawk, a former Seahawk, coaching Roosevelt, and they say, wait a minute, you're telling me that now I can switch schools in the Seattle School District and play for the Seahawk? Is it that? Because then it's a coincidence / circumstantial. Nobody's actually said what rules they violated. If you're bribing the kids, that's a problem. If you're making promises to the kids, that's a problem. If the kids just want to go because there's a Seahawk, here, let me put it into this perspective for a second. If I found out that Rush Limbaugh had come back from the grave when I was first starting out in radio. Wait, he wasn't dead yet. He was still alive. And I had the opportunity to do a radio show with Rush Limbaugh. Wouldn't I take the opportunity of that? Of course you would have done something like that. So here, football players have an opportunity to play with the Seahawk, and they go, wait a minute, if he likes me, I don't care how terrible I am. If he likes me, I could be the water boy for the Seahawks, or I could be their kicker or whatever. That's what the kids are thinking. But nobody's actually said what rule they broke. I want to know what you think about this. Give us a call or a text. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's going on, man?
I want to break some news for you, buddy, on the Ari Hoffman Show. It ties into what you just said.
Okay, you want some breaking news? I'll give you the breaking news liner. Make it good. Here we go, Joe.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
What do you got for us today, Joe?
The King County Council has requested the county auditor to create a website called bit.ly/suggest-audit. I tagged Ari and Mike so you guys can retweet it. And you go right to the website and you can suggest an audit topic. You have to get this in currently by July 1st into the next work program. So you can type in on the questions like, which King County agencies or activities would you like to see audited and why? I said public health, and look at efficiently addressing homelessness. And then for specific suggestions to make those King County agencies or activities work more effectively, efficiently or equitably, I said you need to have the King County Council create laws to require treatment or jail. I know Saul Spady's pushing that. So, again, the website is...
I'm looking at it right now. It's King County. It's on King County's website. They have the... I'm looking at it because you tagged me in it. So for the government auditing, who do you want to see them audit? How about the King County Regional Homeless Authority? Wait, I got one here for you. Emerging issues in Metro Transit. How about that one for you, Joe? You want to audit Sound Transit or Metro? Come on, Joe. Be
Metro.
consistent. Be consistent. Look, you may love transit, but don't you want to make sure your money's going to the right place?
Yes, so we need to audit Homeless Inc.
I agree. Homeless Inc. and Sound Transit. How about we do that together? How does that sound to you, Joe?
That sounds great.
Okay, fantastic. See, building bridges here on the Ari Hoffman Show. I love when you call, Joe. It's always good. It's always entertaining.
One more bit of breaking news.
Yes.
It looks like Donnie Trump is about to announce that he cannot make a deal with Iran. Israel is preparing for a beautiful air war on Iran again to bomb Iran. Going to be a great war. Hopefully you get to play, and hopefully hopefully we have a great war.
A great war. Hang on a second, Joe. You get the song for this one.
Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran.
And isn't that fitting? Because we lost one of the Beach Boys today, isn't it? Don't you think? Yes. I think that's perfect for it, right, Joe?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I think here's the thing, Joe, is that what I see happening right now is it looks like they couldn't make a deal at all, and they are actually calling for some embassies in the area to get rid of non-essential personnel because they're worried about escalation in the region. Now, the question is, does that mean Israel's going to go take out Iran right now? Donald Trump was actually just on the red carpet heading into a Kennedy Center performance, and they asked him about it, and he was very tight-lipped on it, which means likely, yes, Israel is heading in there. Now, a lot of people have said they've been hearing a lot of jets practicing over Israel the past few days because they're not on their way to Gaza. They're probably practicing for an attack on Iran, and I wonder if it's going down right now. Joe, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, yes, that was a perfect lead-in. Things are heating up in the Middle East. What's causing it? What's going on? We'll give you all the details plus more of your calls and texts when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including two tickets to see Pantera live in concert at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. Yet another reason. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Also, if you want to see this sunburned face and this receding hairline, make sure you check out the live stream, which is over on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and, of course, over on X. Actually, speaking of music, we lost a musical legend today. Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys passed away today. And here's the thing, is that for me, the Beach Boys were one of the groups I think are the first groups I ever remember hearing as a kid. Which of us at my age group didn't grow up in the backseat of their parents' car listening to the Beach Boys? Now, those of you that are older said, I remember when the Beach Boys were teenagers or were in college or whatever. But, yeah, that's very, very sad. Also, I wonder if that means they're not going to be at the Puyallup Fair this year. I'm sorry, the Washington State Fair this year. But, yeah, very, very sad news. Thanks to Mike for actually playing all the Beach Boys music and various, I'd say, covers of the Beach Boys music earlier in the show. That was nice. Switching gears completely, the U.S. has directed all embassies within range of Iran, including those in the Middle East, parts of Eastern Europe, and North Africa, to activate emergency action committees and report back to Washington on their risk mitigation plans. This directive triggered today's evacuation moves in Iraq. What are they talking about? That sounds like a lot of mumbo-jumbo. So according to Fox News, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has authorized the voluntary departure of U.S. military dependents from locations across the Middle East, a major move as tensions spike across the region. A U.S. defense official told Fox News on Wednesday the safety and security of our service members and their families remains our highest priority, and U.S. Central Command is monitoring the development tensions in the Middle East. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has authorized the voluntary departure of military dependents from locations across the CENTCOM AOR. The authorization affects U.S. bases throughout the CENTCOM area of responsibility, which includes key flashpoints like Iraq, Syria, Bahrain, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. While the Department of Defense has not cited a specific threat, the move comes as Iran-backed militias increase activity and regional instability grows. I have some guesses about what's going on. This is just me trying to put together the tea leaves of what I've seen so far in the news. So, number one, things have not been going well with the Iran negotiations between Iran and the U.S. They're not going well at all. And as I've said from the beginning, Iran is just stalling. They've been stalling so they can rebuild their defense network, which was taken out by Israel. This whole time, Israel's had an opening to go in. The U.S. does not need to go in, by the way. Israel can do this. Israel has done this. They can go in and bomb Iran. For crazies like Tucker Carlson out there who just say, oh, you just want to drag the U.S. into war with Iran, you don't need the U.S. for this one. You can send in Israel. You don't need the U.S. So let's put that conspiracy theory to bed. Here's something else. On October 7th, Iran activated all their proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthi rebels, and they weren't just attacking Israel. They were also attacking U.S. shipping in the region. So the question is Iran about to do that again because whatever deal they were trying to come up with is falling apart? Does this mean that Israel's about to go in and bomb Iran? Now, there's some other little tea leaves that I've been following. There are reports coming out of Israel that there's been a lot of Israeli jets flying over the country. Now, what this probably means is that they're doing practices. They're not on their way to Gaza. That's not what they're using them for. They're probably doing practice runs in their airspace over whatever they're about to do in Iran. All of this looks like it's like a frog on a hot plate. Everything's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And I love this, is that now the U.S. is announcing today that Iran is close to developing a nuclear weapon. Oh, you think? Israel's only been talking about that since the 1990s. Since the 1990s. 30 years we've been talking about this and Iran's ambitions to be a nuclear power. Israel has sabotaged them along the way multiple times without admitting it's them, but you know Mossad, it's never an accident. Here's what happened with Senator Graham today in Congress.
They had a nuclear weapon. Would they use it against Israel? In your professional military judgment.
Sure, I think they'd use it to pressure Israel. I don't know whether they would use it.
Well, is it 50-50, 60-40, 70-10? What is
Sure,
it?
I don't know what the percentage is.
Well, you can't be wrong, can you? What does Israel think?
Sure, I think they think they would potentially.
What do you
use
think, Mr. Secretary? If they had a nuclear weapon, would they use it to wipe out Israel?
So that's Pete Hegseth he's calling on right now.
I think Israel believes, quite understandably,
Do you believe that?
That it is an existential
Do
threat
you
to their
believe
existence.
that?
Hold on, and in the hands of the wrong Iranian, a cleric or a radical, that they would seek to
Well,
use
is this a radical cleric that exists there today?
Well, as of
if
right
he's
now,
not,
yes.
who the hell would be? So I'm trying to get everybody to think, let's don't do what we did in the 30s. They're going to use a nuclear weapon if they get it. Are they trying to build a nuclear weapon versus a peaceful nuclear power program, Mr. Secretary? Have the Iranians been trying to build a nuke?
There are plenty of indications that they have been moving their way towards something that would look a lot like a nuclear weapon.
Does China intend to take Taiwan by force if necessary?
We don't believe they've made that decision yet, but certainly if you look at their exercises that they're performing in that area, they
What
look
do you
a lot
think,
like
General
what that would
Kane?
look
Do you
like.
think China is intent on taking Taiwan?
Sure, I think it's not to split hairs, but I think it depends on what you define take. I think if
take it over.
I think if they could get them their way, for sure. Do I think they're going to use military capability? Maybe, maybe not. Do we need to be prepared for that? Yes.
Yes, military intelligence. All of you who served know all the jokes about it. But here's the thing to realize, guys. There's an axis of evil. Russia, China, Iran. These guys all work together. Where do you think Iran is getting a lot of its stuff from? Where do you think they're getting their oil from? Who do you think's helping them out with money? All this stuff is tied together. Where do you think China's getting their oil from? All this is tied together. They're all working together against Western interests. This is how things spiral out of control. Iran is one of the heads of a multi-headed hydra. Why we haven't taken them out before now is just mind-boggling to me. When we come back, the Democrat Senate ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, Congressman Adam Smith, will be joining us because I have an issue with some votes he took, and also regarding some statements Democrats have been making about the riots across the country. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We love when our friends from the other side of the aisle come on the show to discuss things because it happens so rarely. One who always comes on the show to discuss things with us, even when we disagree, is Congressman Adam Smith, who represents me and my district right here in Washington. And he joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Congressman, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Ari. It's always a pleasure.
We love having you on the show, and there's two bills on anti-Semitism that went before the House this week. One passed with 400 to 2, and the other one passed with 113 Democrats voting no on it. You voted yes on one, you voted no on the other. I want to have you on the show to explain why.
Sure. Well, the second one contained provisions about visas for immigrants, and basically put in place new screening mechanisms, one of which was perfectly fine, which was, a screening person for any anti-Semitic views, anti-Semitic opinions. But then it also had a provision said that they should be screened for any, quote, anti-American views, end quote. Now, first of all, the anti-Semitic piece is great. Why not also other forms of bigotry and discrimination if we're focusing on that? If we have a hypothetically speaking, white supremacist Afrikaner from South Africa coming in, shouldn't we screen for that as well? But the real concern is the anti-American view screen. We've already seen the Trump administration has pulled visas from people for saying things critical of the Trump administration. I don't think in America we should base your visa on whether or not you've, spoken and said anything critical of an administration. So I thought that went too far and would place in law just, too much of a restriction on free speech.
It seems like a lot of Democrats said that the reason they really oppose this thing was because it mentioned that the guy was an illegal immigrant who was here who committed a terrorist act. Was any of that weighing on the other side of the aisle with a lot of people? Because I think we should call out that that's exactly what he was, because there's a danger.
I have no problem with that. No, I think it's absolutely, he was an illegal immigrant who committed a terrorist act. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of pushback on that from that angle, but that didn't sound right to me because I know that you've actually been somebody who doesn't have a problem with border security issues. You may differ on how you want to do it, but that's something you've spoken about in the past.
Yeah, no, I certainly don't have any problem with that. I mean, the main difference I have, and maybe it's not in my best interest to just go ahead and volunteer this and bring it up, I think there are some undocumented immigrants in the United States who should get a path to citizenship based on the years they've been here, working, paying taxes, raising families, contributing to our community. I mean, we've seen this. There was the one case in Missouri in a very pro-Trump area where they had a woman who had been in the community for a long time, worked, I think it was at a local diner, and she got picked up and detained. There was a massive protest from the town. And I think eventually they did release her. So I have that difference of opinion. We've talked about this before. I think our country has relied on a lot of undocumented labor for a long time. And I don't think it is right to pull these people who are not threats to our community, who are contributing to our community, and deport them. So I think there should be a pathway to citizenship there. Look, if you're in the country undocumented, that's illegal. It is. I think we should, like I said, make some adjustments, but we should not, we shouldn't be afraid of calling it what it is.
So let me push this by you for a second. What if there was something called the yellow brick road to citizenship for a second? And what it would say is if you've been in this country for 20 plus years, you've kept your nose clean, it banned chain migration, it made sure that you were somebody who actually had a job and was sponsored and never was on welfare or anything like that. Could that be something you could get behind as immigration reform? Because I think where the rubber's going to hit the road on the Republican side of the aisle is all of a sudden where people say, well, I've got this friend, or I've got this housekeeper, or I've got this worker, and I don't want to see them deported. And I actually think the majority of Americans would be interested in something like that.
I mean, that's a deal we should have made a long time ago. And the politics on both sides, frankly, has gotten too extreme on that. We're seeing, and I think that's, look, the Trump administration is really on solid ground talking about border security, first of all. They're also on solid ground talking about deporting criminals who are here illegally. Where they're not on solid ground is what they're starting to do now, which is rounding up workers all across the country, trying to, boost those numbers. I think that is in a more controversial area, and that is where a compromise along the lines of what you just described is something that I would enthusiastically support.
So where do you draw the line on who should be deported, who should be detained? Where do you draw that line?
Well, see, now there is that little devil in those details. And part of the problem is whenever we've tried to make that deal, people on the left want to say, well, if it's just a misdemeanor, or if it's a one-time offense, or if it was this, or if it was that. I mean, it seems to me that you got to draw the line on any criminal offense. If you commit a criminal offense while you are, in a illegal undocumented status, then no, you shouldn't qualify for that. Now, on the other hand, if you get into, well, you have to have worked here for 20 years, but yeah, I mean, you would have to get in and figure out what those compromises are. Like I said, when it comes to criminal activity, I would not be very compromising. Getting issues of how long have you worked, how much you're contributing, how long have you been in the country? I mean, there are variables, but the basic idea you outlined, I think, would be a good starting point, and we ought to be able to work out those details.
We're talking with Congressman Adam Smith, and one of the reasons we love having him on the show is because we can have these conversations. In fact, I think later on tonight after the show, I might send you over this draft I wrote up with this and see what you think of it. I know you got a lot of things going on your plate, but if it can help bring compromise and solve some of these problems, I would like that. Switching gear for a minute here, I happen to finish Jake Tapper's book, and you were mentioned a couple times, and in my opinion, you came out okay in this. You were calling out what was going on with Joe Biden behind the scenes. You say we need to address this, we need to solve this. Have you had a chance to read those excerpts from the book that mention you?
Yeah, Jake actually sent them to me before he published the book, just to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing and all that. So yes, I did read those excerpts, and they were very accurate expressions of my opinion.
Gotcha. Do you think that the Democrat Party has a trust issue right now? I mean, you've got Democrats who are saying, oh, there's no rioting. Wait, there is rioting, but it's mostly peaceful rioting. Wait, Donald Trump's to blame for the rioting. And this is on the back of all the stuff that's been revealed in Jake Tapper's book. It seems like it's a lot of, well, don't believe your lying eyes. And it seems like this is what cost them the election last time around.
Yeah, let me draw a very careful distinction. I don't agree with your characterization of what's going on in L.A., and we could have a long conversation about that. I will say the people who are committing crimes in L.A. should be arrested. They should. And the LAPD was, in fact, arresting them, unlike what had happened back in 2020, which I had no support for whatsoever. But that's a different subject. On the subject of Joe Biden, absolutely the Democratic Party has a trust issue. And I can't tell you how many young people said to me, during the course of the 2024 campaign, look, I don't know, partisan issues, whatever, but Joe Biden is just not a credible candidate at his age and in his current health to be president for another 4 years. And the fact that you're putting him out there as that candidate, it undermines our credibility. And that was one of the big arguments that I made for getting him out, aside from the fact that he was not going to be able to campaign effectively, which was obvious, frankly, before the debate. And what's the thing is, every single Democrat, if he's our candidate against Donald Trump, we have to support it. And, because we have our problems with Donald Trump, as you may be aware. And if we are supporting someone who, in the polls ranged from like 60 to 80%, was never below 60, and frequently as high as 80% of the American electorate said he's not a credible candidate for president. And they're not as deeply invested in our concerns about Trump. All they see is our lack of credibility, and we're out there defending this because we have no choice. Every day that went on, it undermined the credibility of our candidates. It certainly undermined Kamala Harris when she became the eventual nominee. So, yeah, we should not have let that happen. And I think it has caused a trust deficit that we're going to have to work to repair.
Well, I'll say is that I appreciate you joining us as always. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I understand you have a new challenger, and I'm not sure if you could discuss it because of ethics and stuff, because we sent this up through your official congressional office. But I will say is that compared with your new challenger and stuff, you would have my full support, even though there's a lot of issues we disagree on, specifically because of the fact that you and I can talk through those even when we disagree on things that are close to my heart and things that are close to yours.
Yeah, I always like to check. That's the one saving grace of life. It is graded on a curve. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than the other person. So I do appreciate that, and I will look forward to having a campaign side conversation about that as we go forward as well.
Excellent. Sounds good. Congressman Adam Smith, thank you very, very much for joining us today, and your candor as always. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Ari. Great to talk to you.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including 2 tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Plus, we're also giving away a Daniel's Broiler gift card. And with summer coming, my God, my wife and I went out last night, and we're just wandering around Leshai. It was packed. And there's a Daniel's Broiler over there. Saw a lot of people over at the Daniel's Broiler. Absolutely packed last night. People are enjoying that lovely weather outside.
Well, absolutely. And, you want to take your sweetie to the Daniel's Broiler. You might even say it's this love. This love, yes. And who says there's no ballads in heavy metal?
Exactly right.
No love songs. Come on.
Exactly right. Now, a movie star, I don't know if that's the right word, a movie actress, shall we say, is saying she's getting no love. In fact, she's claiming she's getting hate, and her name is Nico Parker. Now, you may not know who Nico Parker is. She's starring as Astrid in the live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon, which we shouldn't call a live-action remake because that dragon looks exactly the same as he did in the cartoon. They didn't get a real dragon for the movie. It's not like The Lion King where they look legit. We've seen the trailer. I haven't seen the movie yet. Young Zach saw it. He's going to be joining us for a review, I believe, on Monday about that during The Real Deal at 4:45, where we will also give away fantabulous prizes. But Nico Parker is claiming she's getting all this backlash because she doesn't look like the Astrid in the cartoon, because the Astrid in the cartoon has blonde hair and blue eyes. And I think that Nico Parker is just trying to make this some kind of racial thing. Do you really want to be Rachel Ziegler? Do you want to go down that road? Because Rachel Ziegler's comments on everything are what torpedoed that Snow White movie. That ended up being absolutely terrible. There was no redeeming quality. And the dwarves still are the things nightmares are made of. But from what I heard, the movie's fine. In fact, some people wish this had come out as opposed to the cartoon version. But at the same time, she is claiming that people are giving her backlash. So I went to the source. And I saw this originally, I think Mike showed it to me in Variety, and then that linked to the Hollywood Reporter, which then linked to The Times, which is a British outlet. And I did some online searching. Of stuff in the UK. I can't find the backlash. I wonder if she's just trying to generate controversy to sell some movie tickets. Look, I haven't seen the movie. But you know what? We haven't heard anything bad about the movie yet, right, Mike? In fact, the opposite, as a matter of fact. People seem to be liking this thing.
I don't think the movie's out yet.
Maybe that's why we haven't heard anything about it. But from the advanced screening, have they lifted the embargo on it yet? We'll double check and see if that's the case.
Yeah, I have none of those answers.
But put it this way, it hasn't generated all the hate Snow White
Yeah, the movie's
did.
out on this Friday.
Friday.
The 13th.
So that explains why. It hasn't generated all the backlash that these other remakes of children's classics, I don't know if you can call a classic that's 10 years old a classic, but it hasn't generated all the other hate. In fact, it's kind of off the radar for that. It just seems like people are going to want to go see a movie because it's a kid's movie and it's during the summer. I wonder if she's just trying to create controversy for this movie. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And you know what? If you're confident in your movie, you don't have to do that. You could just say, I'm so proud to be part of this movie. I'm so proud to be part of this franchise, which people love. It's amazing working with a green screen. Whatever it is. The dragon was really good to work with. Whatever the case may be, you don't have to go negative. Now, I haven't seen all this backlash she's talking about, and usually we're the first ones to see it because the conservative outrage machine, you change the casting based on the color of the person's skin, blah, 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 blah. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see anybody getting mad about this. I hope it's not her trying to manufacture a controversy to gain more notoriety or something like that, because from what I hear so far, people are kind of enjoying this thing. At least the critics are. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. We know the rioters are already assembling for tonight, not just in Seattle, but also in California and many other places. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories streaming live at KVI and KVI.com and the KVI app. You want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves? Call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including tickets to Pantera and a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. But the question is, what's going to happen tonight in Seattle? We know that protesters have been massing since this morning, once again, at the federal building. Again, after what happened last night, where they decided to blockade all the doors and garages with Lime bikes and whatever else they can get their hands on. Somebody just sent me this. This is a list of everything that's happening in our area for the activists. It seems like the summer of love has already begun. Today, at 7 o'clock at Cal Anderson Park, from LA to Seattle, ICE out, including a march. We're going to have that out there. Tomorrow at 5:30, they want to shut down the Othello Link light rail station for hands-off Gaza aid. Oh, wait a second. So it didn't work out last night because everybody's at the federal building and nobody paid attention to what was happening at UW. So now we're going to go out to Othello Light Ring Station? Okay. June 14th, Saturday. Oh, wait. We got conflicting things. UW Red Square, no Kings Rally at UW. Cal Anderson Park, no Kings Rally, including a march from Cal Anderson to Seattle Center. June 14th also, here's another one. UW Husky Stadium, all out for UW graduation. Oh, they're going to try and interrupt UW graduation? By the way, somebody sent Brandy Cruz a picture where they had somebody at the graduation for the law school having a poster on stage that was calling for more terrorist activity on behalf of Gaza. And nobody at UW took it down. It was up there for over 10 minutes on stage at the graduation. Nobody did anything about it. Daily. At the federal building. Abolish ICE, a daily event. Fridays at the federal building. Weekly event. Federal building Fridays. What does that even mean? Saturdays at 1000 hours. Tesla takedown at one of the Tesla location. Sundays. They also have West Seattle resists. Oh my God. They have a whole list of these things. Mondays, the mini march for Palestine. Mondays, due process, bring them back. You know, the only sane Democrat left is John Fetterman, the one who had the head injury.
We should have learned the lesson back in 2020. Absolutely, there was righteous outrage over what happened to George Floyd. But that never means that you can support or be quiet if there's destruction or rioting and destroying and looting and those kinds of things.
Let's remember what happened in 2020 for a second to analyze this. What happened was the death of George Floyd. That video galvanized a lot of people. And a lot of normal people said, this is wrong, this shouldn't happen, we shouldn't do this. We know a lot more now than we knew then. We know it's likely that George Floyd died of the drugs in his system, not anything Derek Chauvin did, but that's a different discussion. I'm just discussing what was happening at the time. People had been locked in their house for months, literally for months. Remember 2 weeks to flatten the curve? The 2 weeks to flatten the curve were at the end of February, beginning of March. And it had already been 2 months to flatten the curve, going on for a third one with no end in sight. People were losing their minds. And then the government says, well, you can't have the funerals, you can't have the weddings, you can't go to synagogue, you can't go to church, you can't go to anywhere. All the amusement parks are closed, all the beaches are closed, everything's closed. In fact, we're going to use the National Guard to close every... Wait, hang on. They used the National Guard to shut down California. They used the National Guard to shut down Washington. I remember going to New York, flying to New York. They had the National Guard waiting for you at the airport. So Democrats had no problem using the National Guard for something that wasn't really a health crisis, but they did it anyway. The National Guard was everywhere. And then they said, you know what? You can gather in groups if it fights racism. You can go out and do that. So people said, sure, let's go do it. And the psychos said, oh, what a great opportunity. Now we can do whatever we want. And the government's on our side. And that's exactly what they did. Seized control of 6 blocks of Seattle. Nightly riots. Nightly marches across I-5, shutting down the freeway. Because who was going to stop them? That's exactly what we see happening now when there isn't COVID. So when there isn't COVID, you're seeing people don't go riot until they can get off of work or whatever it is they do during the day. finish school for the day. Then they show up and riot. Why do we see people massing in California right now? Why have people been massing at the federal building? Those are the people without the jobs. Those are the people who are sleeping on mom's couch. But then the professional agitators show up at night, just like in the autonomous zone. If you want to see what was really going on in the autonomous zone in 2020, you had to be there at different times of the day. That's what I did. I went there at different times of day. I went there at 5 o'clock in the morning. I went there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I went there at 10 o'clock at night. I went there at 10 o'clock in the morning. I went there midday because it was different whenever you showed up. Yeah, was Jenny Durkin right about it being the summer of love? No, of course not. Were any Seattle officials telling the truth when they said it was a street fair, a block party? Yeah, one you might get hepatitis from, but no, it wasn't nice at all. It wasn't. It was disgusting. It was awful. But it wasn't chaos and pandemonium every single time you went there. It wasn't. It got that way at night when everybody showed up. It got that way at night when they wanted to have one of their rallies, when they wanted to have one of their marches. And here's the thing, what's happening right now, this violence on the streets, we've gone from there's no rioting to there's rioting, but it's Donald Trump's fault, and it's mostly peaceful, to, well, it's real rioting, and it's still Donald Trump's fault. That's the process that has happened here. And we saw it in Seattle last night when they went to the federal building, and they're planning on doing it tonight again at Cal Anderson Park. And in fact, they're being egged on by our governor. And not just by our governor, by our mayor, and by other elected officials in our area. Bob Ferguson posted this just a little while ago. Joint statement from myself, King County Executive Shannon Braddock, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, Pierce County Executive Ryan Mello, and Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodhards. We condemn President Trump's illegal activation of California National Guard forces over objections of California's governor. Why are they condemning it and not actually doing anything about it legally? Because that's their go-to? Because they can't, because the judge already said it's fine. It's perfectly legal. We understand the strong feelings that President Trump's actions are generating in our state. The right to protest is core to our nation. It is critical that Washingtonians do so peacefully. Violence will not be tolerated. You tolerated it last night. You literally tolerated it last night. 2 people got arrested. There were 50 people in front of the federal building last night. Way more than 2 were attacking reporters. Way more than 2 were trying to break in the windows. Way more than 2 were obstructing ICE. You arrested 2. Those who break the law can expect to be held accountable. Why would I believe you? Has anybody around here been held accountable? Crime's only getting worse around here. Nothing is getting better around here. At the same time, we expect local law enforcement will manage all protests with professionalism and without interference from the federal government. Why are you calling out your own police? Have they given you a reason to think they won't be professional? Besides, there's not that many of them left. You know what this is? This is a temper tantrum. This is virtue signaling. Why? Because they know they can't sue. They don't have a case. So they're just going to yell and scream about it. You think that Bob Ferguson would call in the National Guard if there's a second autonomous zone? Of course not. Because those are the people who put him in office. Those are his donors. Those are his voters. Bruce Harrell isn't clearing the homeless encampments. Why? Because then the left is going to go bonkers, and he's counting on their vote. John Fetterman says we win the argument. Do not loot. Do not set blank on fire. Stuff. We'll just say stuff. Do not assault law enforcement. He says do protest peacefully. Do organize to win elections. Do call out destructive behavior like this. He's 100% correct. He says my party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement. You know, something crazy happened last night. Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, she's the one who said, there's no riots. I don't know what you're talking about. Malibu didn't burn to the ground. Right? That's Karen Bass. Yes, if we need an entire section of the city burnt down, we'll call you, lady. Oh, wait, you won't be around. You'll be in Ghana. So she sees this as, I'm going to be the face of the resistance. I'm going to go head-to-head with Donald Trump and be the face of the resistance. Put that fist high up in the air. That's what you're going to do. Here's what she said last night when she declared a curfew. Wait a minute, if you're declaring a curfew, I don't understand. Is there rioting? Is there not rioting? What's going on here?
Especially of the graffiti that is just blanketing a number of blocks has been extensive. We are 1 year away from the World Cup. This is about beautifying our city and bringing our city together. And so I am calling on business leaders, community leaders, faith leaders to come together downtown in the next few days to talk about how we are going to clean up the city. Obviously, city workers are already out there removing the graffiti, but this is so extensive it's going to take community-wide involvement. We had launched a program called Shine LA a couple of months ago in preparation for the World Cup, and now we are called on to direct that citywide. We need people from all over the city to come to downtown and to help with this effort.
Maybe, just maybe, I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe if you had sent in the cops and the National Guard earlier, you wouldn't be behind the 8 ball now. Just a thought. Just thinking out loud here. But now you're expecting the business leaders to clean up your mess? You made the mess. You allowed the chaos. And now you're saying, look at us. We're doing a curfew and we're cleaning up the city. I wonder how bad polling was. How bad was the polling for them to do an immediate about face after a couple days of this? It must have been horrible. In fact, we know it was horrible. There's even more people supporting illegal immigrants. There's even supporting deporting illegal immigrants. There's even more people supporting deporting illegal criminals. So you guys have jeopardized your own position. It went from an 80-20 issue to a 90-10 issue. So now, all of a sudden, they're trying to sound like they are in charge and they are dealing with this, not Donald Trump. Of course, they didn't do anything until Donald Trump sent in the National Guard and sent in the Marines, who aren't even doing crowd control. They're just keeping safe federal buildings. The dumbest take is Sunny Hostin over on The View. You can always count on her to say dumb things. Here's what she said.
The same thing. I spoke to about 5 people that live in L.A., that work in L.A., and they said that these protests were very, very orderly. They weren't violent, and they occurred in about a 4-block radius. Mm-hmm. And we all
very orderly when they light the Waymos on fire. So orderly the way they ordered the Waymos, the self-driving taxi cabs, in a row. And then lit them all on fire.
It literally was. They were literally in a line, very orderly.
Right there. And that Waymo abandoned Los Angeles. In fact, there's a video, Mike, I don't know if you saw this one. There's a video of the Waymos driving out of Los Angeles, all the ones that are left so they can't burn them anymore. Actually, Elon Musk had somebody posted a video. You know what it was? Mike, it was the trailer that they made in a flash for Terminator 2. Of the robot factory, you know, the very famous trailer. They didn't have anything to show yet.
Yeah, the teaser. Yeah.
Right, the teaser. So it's all the T-1000s being built on an assembly line, one by one, coming soon this summer, Terminator 2, whatever it was. So they shared that, and they said the Waymos are gearing up for revenge. And Elon Musk shared it. He found it, which I think it was hysterical. I thought that was a great line. But, yeah, you're burning the taxi cabs. You know, maybe if you had sent in the National Guard earlier, it would have been fixed. Just a thought. Just a thought. Gavin Newsom last night. He's trying to look like the hero of the moment, so he calls this big press conference. He even texted Sean Hannity. Asked Sean Hannity to cover it live. Sean Hannity was giggling on Fox when he was talking about Gavin Newsom texting him. Can you cover my press conference, please? Actually, hang on. It went more like this. Hey, Sean, got a favor to ask. Auntie Nancy says if I were to be president, then I got to have this big press conference to make it look like I'm doing something. Can you interrupt your show to cover it, please? Pretty please. Well, what happens? Hang on. We're going to give you the opening segment of his press conference. You ready? This was the opening segment of it. Well, I'm not going to play dead air, but that's exactly what happened. He starts talking, and he's having a massive tech malfunction. So what was that, like for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? It was really, really long. And you get all cringy when you feel bad for the person because Gavin has no idea. So his big press conference, a bunch of people said, yep, I'm out, not even watching this. But then he tries to be emotional. He starts trying to tear up, and he is the worst actor ever. Here's Gavin Newsom.
This moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
You know what you should have said, Gavin? Just a thought. You want to peacefully protest? Go ahead and peacefully protest. If you commit any crimes whatsoever, you will be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's how you get people back on your side. And you know what you could have said? You could have said, we don't need Donald Trump because we will arrest you. We will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. We are bringing in resources from outside of Los Angeles. We are bringing in as many resources as it takes to stop this. You want to peacefully protest? Peacefully protest. You know what else he could have said? Show the Republicans and show the country that Donald Trump is lying. We know he's not. But show him that he's lying by peacefully protesting. The best thing you can do is not riot and peacefully protest and show that he was overreacting. Now, that's never going to happen. Why? Because these left-wing nonprofits, a lot of them that get government funds, are distributing gear to the rioters, goggles, gas masks, you name it. In fact, they're giving out blank ice kits. And I don't mean blank, I mean a word that starts with an F. One of the groups involved, according to the Post-Millennial, called Operation Healthy Hearts, typically focuses on aiding the homeless, but has shifted its attention to protesters. The nonprofit has been handing out packages that include goggles, face masks, gloves, and a phone number for jail support. The group has a history of posting left-wing content on social media and has publicly denounced law enforcement since the protests began. Isn't this exactly what we dealt with in 2020? Except Jenny Durkin, in her infinite wisdom, what did she decide to do? She said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pay off everybody to leave the autonomous zone. We're going to funnel millions of dollars to these nonprofits so that they leave the autonomous zone. This was their big, big plan. Tell me, what do you think would happen if an autonomous zone formed at Cal Anderson Park tonight? Or Saturday, which is more likely. My bet's on Saturday, by the way, Mike. When everybody's out for the weekend, has nowhere to be for work on Sunday, my bet is if they're going to try anything big, it's going to be Saturday. And I'm going to come back online after Sabbath Saturday night and be like, oh, here we go again. Great, fantastic, wonderful, another autonomous zone. You think Turd Ferguson would shut it down? You think Bruce Harrell would shut it down? Why would any of them? None of them did it last time. None of them said anything last time. Bob Ferguson was a top cop in Washington, said nothing. Bruce Harrell was gearing up to run for mayor, said nothing. We have so many officials that are still here from last time who said and did absolutely nothing. By the way, kudos to the Trump administration. Kudos to President Trump. Last time President Trump tried to work with everybody. And he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't, just like right now. If he hadn't sent in the National Guard, they would say, why isn't the president helping out? But here, in this case, he sends in help right away, not waiting like last time, and they demonize him for that. There's no winning here. There's only losing. And the losing is going to happen for all of us. And it's not going to change until we say no more of this. Bruce Harrell signed that idiot statement. Those of you that said you're still supporting him because Katie Wilson is worse, I ask you again, why do you think Katie Wilson's worse? At least with Katie Wilson, I know I'm getting a left-wing lunatic. With Bruce Harrell, who knows what he's going to be on any given day? And those of you who's saying, well, he's better than her, prove it. Tell me how. You just lost Microsoft's conference, along with how many other businesses from downtown Seattle, because things are not better downtown. You think things are actually getting better? You give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. You still going to vote for Bruce Harrell? You give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757, because it doesn't look like anything's getting better. No, I'm not going to vote for Katie Wilson, but I'd rather deal with the socialist because then at least I know they're going to be consistent. If it's in the socialist playbook, that's what they're going to do. And until the GOP around here comes up with somebody to vote for, until moderates come up with an actual moderate to vote for, not somebody who waffles, depending on the election that comes up, but says, these are my principles, I'm sticking to them, I got nobody to vote for. I really don't. I really, really don't. And I bet a lot of you don't either. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. I can rant and rave about this all I want, but what about a potential solution? That's right. Came up with a potential solution last night for the immigration crisis. We'll give you all details when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and two tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd, my friends. By the way, have you been by the KVI website recently? We're producing a whole lot more content. You've got articles from me, Mike, Phil, movie reviews, you name it, it's all up there. Make sure you head on over to KVI.com to check it out. And while you're there, sign up to become a KVI insider. That way you're on our email list and get all this stuff before anybody else does. We've been talking about this immigration issue for a long, long time now. And I'm about to have a very, very hard conversation, and some of you are going to call and yell at me. So I'm going to give you the phone number now. And again at the end, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We know that amnesty doesn't work. Open borders don't work. What about all the people who are already here? A lot of you in my audience are going to say, deport them all. Well, those on the other side of the aisle will say, keep them all. Now, the overwhelming majority of Americans, according to polling, over 80%, say deport the criminals, murderers, rapists, gang members, and human traffickers. And that number is growing since the riots. It's gone from an 80-20 issue. It's approaching a 90-10 issue. But the polling changes when you start discussing people who are here just to work and try to earn a piece of the American dream. The most recent polling shows 85% of Americans feel a non-criminal illegal immigrant with a job or who has children born here should not be deported. I hate to sound like the Democrats for a second, but you have people that work for you. You know people have people that work for them, and you haven't said anything about that, right? Would you be happy or sad if they got deported? So how do we solve this? Now, a lot of you are going to say, Ari, if you propose amnesty, I'm never listening to your show again. It's one of the things I don't like about Ronald Reagan. I agree. It was a huge problem. It was a huge mistake, and I love Ronald Reagan. But how can you solve this issue and put the Democrats further on the wrong side of the issue? Because if 85% of Americans feel a non-criminal illegal immigrant with a job who has children born here should not be deported, you now have a problem. Let's say tomorrow all the criminal illegal immigrants are gone. Let's say they're all gone. Now what do? You've got millions of people who are here illegally. Some of you are going to say start deporting them. What if we can get them to vote Republican? What if we proposed the Yellow Brick Road to Citizenship Act, which would establish a limited one-time pathway to U.S. citizenship for long-term illegal immigrants who have proven their loyalty, productivity, and law-abiding character while ending chain migration, holding sponsors accountable, and strengthening enforcement? Imagine if the people who are here illegally became Republican voters rather than Democratic ones. Because who are they going to thank if this thing goes through? Donald Trump and the Republicans. What if you could completely take the argument away from the Democrats? I'm going to give you a plan, and I want to know what you think of it. What do you think is missing? What do you think should be taken out of it? Do you think it's possible to completely flip the script? Tell me what you think. 206-421-5757. Section 1, eligibility requirements. Applicants must meet all of the following criteria. Long-term residency, must have continuously resided in the U.S. since on or before January 1st, 2005. That's 20 plus years. Must have no criminal convictions of any kind, including misdemeanors. Must pass a full DHS and FBI background check. No public assistance, cannot have received public assistance. No SNAP, no TANF, no Medicaid, no welfare, anything. Must show evidence of financial independence, whether it's via tax returns, employment records, or verified income. I'm not sure they're going to have tax returns because they're in the country illegally. I know a lot of you right now are bristling at this. Don't worry, we'll get to the rest of it. Must pass an English language test and a U.S. civics exam like any other person. Must sign a loyalty oath to the U.S. Constitution. You must pay a $250 fine, which, by the way, is the exact same thing you have to pay right now because it is a civil infraction, not a criminal one, to be here illegally. Must pay an additional $50 fine per child or dependent who was brought into the country unlawfully. You must have an individual financial sponsor who must be a U.S. citizen may sponsor only one individual under this act must have an income of at least 400% of the federal poverty level, must sign a 10-year financial affidavit of support, and agree to reimburse any illegal public benefit use. Your employer sponsor must be a U.S.-based company or a business in good legal standing, must certify that the applicant has been continuously employed or employable and is not displacing American workers, and must agree to notify DHS of any termination of any employment during the conditional status period. What if we could actually do this? What if we ban chain migration under this law? So, for example, first, you have a conditional legal status of 5 years. Applicant receives temporary legal status and work authorization, must maintain employment with the sponsoring employer or another verified employer, must avoid any public benefits or criminal activity. After 5 years of compliance, you can apply for a green card. Continued sponsorship must be reaffirmed. After 5 years of a green card holder, the applicant may apply for naturalization. So this is not an instant, oh, we're going to do amnesty. No family-based immigration. Individuals who naturalize through this program are permanently barred from sponsoring family members. No derivative benefits through marriage. Any marriage entered into after the conditional status does not confer immigration benefits. Now, what if we capped it at 250,000 applicants per year? Because that's all the FBI can actually handle. What if we could actually do this? What things do you think are missing? What things do you think should be included? Or do you say, Ari, you are out of your mind. We shouldn't be doing any of this at all. And given what I'm seeing with my phone lines, there's a bunch of you right now that think that. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. Mike's going to keep answering the phones, and we're going to keep checking the texts. And as soon as we come back, we're going to go right to the phone lines. And we're going to take your calls. We're going to take your texts on what you think of the Yellow Brick Road to Citizenship Act. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories. You want to be part of the conversation. You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And today we are discussing the Yellow Brick Road to Citizenship Act. This is not amnesty. This is not full-on deportation, but perhaps it solves the problem. Seems like a lot of you have a lot of thoughts about this, so we jump immediately to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Chuck in Burien. Chuck, what's going on, man?
Okay, Ari, one of these days you got to get back and do your governor impression of Inslee. I love that one.
Oh, the Inslee one? When he comes up, we'll do it. I promise you we will. Yes, thank you, Chuck.
That is still my favorite. Anyway, I am 79 years old. And my mom and dad both immigrated from Mexico in the 1920s, legally. And I say, no way, with no amnesty, send them all back. The fact that you broke the law, my dad was supposedly, a rumor had it, that he came over illegally, was deported, and then came back again legally because he had a sponsor in the States. All of this stuff you were just talking about, sponsorship, business and stuff like that, it's been like that for decades. It's nothing new. That's the way my dad came in with a sponsor. Okay, so no to any of the immigration amnesty for no one, even the babies who were born here. That issue will be resolved at the Supreme Court level.
I think that there's going to be a lot of people who end up agreeing with you, especially families that went through the process legally. Because, first of all, they remember what happened under Reagan, because now the Democrats say, Reagan did it, Reagan did it, Reagan did it.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, you have to realize is that we are not going to get everybody out of here in the Trump administration, and then who's on deck next? We all want it to be J.D. Vance or Ron DeSantis or whoever it is. But we're taking a very, very big risk right now. So the question is, what do you do, Chuck? So that's the problem we have to solve. And I'm not saying this is the solution. I'm proposing this as an idea for discussion.
Understood.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, Chuck, I'm giving you a homework assignment, okay? Because I could tell you're passionate about this, okay? You can take as long as you want, but come up with a solution and call me back. You got the number. You listen every day. Call me back with an idea.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
The solution is simple. Deport them all. You said we may not be able to deport them all. So what? Deport as many as you possibly can. If we went, like Kristi Noem said, if we went and did the biometric check on every one of the illegal people who is here, do you have your citizenship? No. Take your biometrics, get out of here. You will never be able to come back, period.
You know, I love that ad ran right before this segment. Cracks me up because it gave you fuel for the fire, Chuck. But here's something else. If we want to do that, how come local ICE agents aren't just hitting up every single Lowe's and Home Depot? I drive past the Lowe's every single day, and I still see the guys hanging out outside. Chuck, I appreciate your insight. I appreciate your passion. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Christy in Marysville. Christy, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, this is a fabulous subject. I'm so excited to share my idea. Number one, they don't get citizenship. However, if they've not broken the law, I would concede that they should be given rights to legally work in America unless they're flying in a Mexican flag in America.
So a guest worker program is what you're talking about, assuming you actually want to be in this country and not go out and riot in the streets of California or in front of the federal building in Seattle.
Yes. And where people might want to get citizenship, we have a country that was able to manufacture 20 million votes for the Democratic ticket. We have a history of not enforcing our law. So let's at least give the honest, after they were illegal, a way to support their family legally without fear of deportation, as long as they'll honor our laws going forward.
A guest worker program. Interesting idea.
Revocable if they're convicted.
Interesting idea, Christy. That is fascinating take. I like that one.
Capping at 250,000 will do nothing for the Republican ticket.
I like it. I like it a lot. Christy, great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Wow. You should see the text line right now. It is crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a text line blow up like this, probably since the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Darren in Lake Tapps. Darren, what's up?
Hey, you stole my idea. Check this out, Ari.
Which one was that? The guest worker program by Christie or the Yellow Brick Road idea?
Well, no, so the Yellow Brick Road, but I brought this up to my dad. I mean, the same concept of what you're talking about. I was visiting him in Montana. He's a staunch Republican. And we talk about politics, and I brought this concept up to him. And I said, but what it would be named is Trump's Golden Road.
So, by the way,
market that.
I thought of that originally. But you know what I'm worried about? If I put this over on social media, people are going to think he actually proposed it, and then it's going to go viral, and it's going to become a whole thing. If he actually proposes it, I'm hoping that, Donald Trump, let's say we actually do this, right? If he thinks his idea is the name, no, we're going to call it the Golden Road. It's going to be the best road you've ever. See, then it's his idea. You see what I mean? If I... And then we could do that nonstop, right, Darren?
All right. Cheers, my friend.
All right. Take care, buddy. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Pam in Lake Stevens says on the text line, I'm open to a strict road to legal status you specified for the limited few already here. I believe government should stop offering various aid, though, which is exactly what I suggested. If you are on welfare in any way, shape, or form, you don't get to do that. Man, I'm looking at the text line right now. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. I got Lee right here who says, I like the Yellow Brick Road. I got somebody else who's here like, no Yellow Brick Road. But Rob says if it's called the Golden Brick Road, Rob says if it's called the Golden Brick Road, then he'll go for it. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Ernie in Puyallup. Ernie, what's up?
Hey, Ari. Hey, yeah, I'm just kind of riding on what Chuck said earlier. The idea that you have is great. But I think, as Chuck said, we still get them back out of the country. They go back to where they came from. But now they have the opportunity to sit there and get the sponsor and go through it the correct way as, his forefathers did, et cetera, to come in. We're not saying, we're going to put you back, to whatever country they came from and you can't come back. Here, we're just going to get you out and now come back the right way. If you have a sponsorship, you have this, et cetera, then we can look at that and bring you back in.
I think that's a great way to approach it. And I wish there was some incentive, a little bit more than what Kristi Noem is saying in those ads. I need a little bit more because how many people are going to go, well, what if they're lying to me? If you say, and here's our Yellow Brick Road or Golden Road program, apply now on the CB1 app or the Home app or whatever they're calling it these days, I think you'd actually see more people using it because they want to come back in. Ernie, great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. We got time for one more. We go to Pete. Pete, over on the Warrior Injury Law line. Pete, what's going on?
Warrior Injury line? I don't think we should do anything about it. We should just shoot them all. They're here illegally. They're invading the country. Let's deal with it.
Well, I think that's one way to go, but I didn't even hear the most extreme people on the text line saying that. But Pete, I appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. I'll tell you though, what I think we should do is if we want to take care of the rioting problem in California, where's the Korean rooftop guys? The Korean rooftop guys we had in 92. I think they could take care of the rioting problem for us real fast. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 gift card plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Death.
It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And wow, guys, that was an amazing response to the first time we really put effort into our final hour free-for-all. So I think we're going to do that a lot more often because the engagement is off the charts. The amount of texts, we're just going to do it earlier in the show next time. I think we'll start the 5 o'clock hour with the controversial topics, so that way we can get in everybody's calls and everybody's texts. And even if I didn't read yours on air, just know that I'm reading them right now. I was reading them during the commercial break, and they are fascinating. You guys have some great ideas in here, and some of you I'm a little concerned about. But I really appreciate the engagement, so thanks for proving this little experiment of ours a success. So I saw this, and I thought it was interesting. While being held underground, Hamas handed Omer Shem Tov a small pamphlet left behind by an IDF soldier. Now, he wasn't religious or observant at the time, but he begged to keep it. And after making several promises, they allowed him to hold on to the weekly Torah portion sheet. That's a little portion that us Jews break up the Old Testament by. The section it contained was the story of Joseph, thrown into a pit, abandoned, and never giving up, and his rise to royalty. He said that was God, Hashem, telling me I was going to be okay, and this kept me going. He told the story during a podcast interview, and it's one of those things that you go, oh, man, that's one of those things where you believe more in God when you hear those kind of stories. I love that kind of stuff. A friend of mine and I were talking today, and he goes, oh, my wife, she's a real Old Testament fire and brimstone fire breather. And I go, yeah, we are in our house too, but you know what? We didn't like the sequel. that one got a good laugh. We don't call it the Old Testament. We just call it the Testament. In fact, we don't even call it that. We just call it the Torah. But this was a really, really moving thing. I don't think I have time to play the full clip now, but I will share it over on social media. So that way you guys get a chance to hear it because it is very, very inspiring. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table. Place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away two tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. The countdown is on. Get $30 concert tickets to select shows at the White River Amphitheater, Chateau Ste. Michelle, and the Gorge on sale now. Make it a summer of live music with your $30 ticket to summer. Get your tickets for Pantera and your tickets to summer at livenation.com/ticket-to-summer. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement, a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and two tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.